So in the networking, don't worry about this subnet mask here. The IP address of the net, if you want to make communication between the two networks, you definitely need a router for that. So examine that this is the network number 192.168.1.0. It has its own router. Router is the gateway from where the network traffic will go out. And if you are trying to reach the network number 2, it will be first caught by the router or at the network number 2. So this network has an IP address of 192.168.2.0. And this one has 1.0. So the typical network has this infrastructure. So one network cannot communicate with another network until the router has inflow and outflow. What does that mean? Inflow and outflow meaning that this or if one client from this machine want to connect to the client on the other network, it has to first internally connect to the router. Router will then send will then see whether this request is for the internal network computers that are already connected, or is it has to go outside of the network or intended for another network, whether it could be an internet as well, because we know internet is the network of networks. So if it goes out and hit another router, then the other router will either most probably will entertain that request coming from .1.0 network and will say that, okay, yeah, this looks a fair communication. Then the router will see for which computer inside my network this request is intended for, and then that router accepts that request. So in that sense, same thing happens. The computer from the second network is then sends the data back to its own router, and then it will hop on to this router, and then whoever requested the whatever the web request is or whatever the communication request is, then it will turn it back to the request where it came from, or whatever the request was. If the data was legit, it will be transferred back to the network, to different networks. So this is how in general the communication happens. If we are to identify, and you could be starting up when you will be working in a company, you might be working several roles. Typically in Alberta and in Calgary and Red Deer and Edmonton region, sometimes in small businesses you have to have 2 or 3 roles that you carry on your shoulder because of the budgetary constraints and whatnot. So you might be doing some part of programming, some part you will be doing troubleshooting. It all depends upon where you end up in your career goal or in your resume. When you get a break in an interview, you sometimes never say no. You'll just say, okay, yeah, I can do this. I'll try my best to fix the printers, or try to fix the internet connection if there is any, or help anybody out. So think of that. You will be in the network troubleshooting process, or you can also be helping resolve connectivity issues. If you are a programmer and your network engineer or network administrator does not know how to resolve your connectivity issues with the database server, you know that you need at least 4 things which we identified yesterday: the server name, the database name, the username or password, and it could be a port number as well. It could be a port on which your data is allowed. So troubleshooting will be you will be also be helping a little bit on the troubleshooting on those scenarios. It will not be merry all the time when you are just developing and you said, okay, we are ready to implement this in different environments. You might run into connectivity issues because each server could be a little different or configured. They try to keep all the servers the same, but you never know. Some patches might be applied, some patches might fail, so your servers might be a little bit indifferent from each other. So let's say you are in the office and it's not your job to fix the network issue, but I'm just saying that as a startup, you might be doing some, if for a career break, you might be doing some support stuff as well and troubleshooting processes. So identify the scope of the problem, check the IP address configuration, check the hardware configuration, and perform communication test. We will be going to see some of the steps in the next few slides. I'm going to share these slides with you also. So let's say one user says to you, hey, or it could be you as well. You said that I'm not able to connect to the internet. What is happening? And you receive an error message. Or the reception calls you, hey, welcome this morning. I am not able to connect to the issue. I'm not be able to connect to the internet. What's the issue? Can you come and have a look at it? So before you go and troubleshoot those issues, you have to know what is the scope of the issue. It could be inside your home as well. You want to see whether you are able to browse from your system and you are not able to browse from your phone, because if the internet is down, it should be down for all of your devices, right? Even at home. So user receives an error that he's not able to connect to the internet. You need to identify the scope of the issue. What could be the scope of the issues? So you will be so before you jump the gun and go and troubleshoot for that person, at your desk you can identify two things. If rule of thumb number one, ask them to reboot their system. It could be something related to their system only, and you are able to browse to the website. It could be the problem with the website they are trying to browse, right? So it might be the website they are trying to browse might be down at that time. Could be quite possible. So they have to wait a few, or you will check that out. Okay, I know you are not able to browse to that website. You browse that website daily for submitting your receipts or invoices or whatnot. Let me check if I am able to browse to that website. Can you give me the link of that website or something like that? So you will try, you browsed it and you are able to browse it. You were able to pass through your router and you are able to browse that website from their web server and you got a reply back. But the same user who's complaining, they are not able to connect to that web server because it could be just their computer, or it could be that website is down. But you are able to browse it, it means that website is now down. It could be the issue just related to their system, because you are able to browse that from your system. So before you leave your desk and go and troubleshoot that problem, you check that can you bring that problem down to your desk as well first. So before you go out, you check that website. Let's say you are able to browse, they are not able to browse. So you kind of know that it is the problem with their system. So you are sitting at the help desk. You might have some better privileges given to you by the network administrator because you are the troubleshooter of the problem. So you might have better Privileges means permissions on the network than an ordinary user is. And we all know what is permission is because we yesterday looked at it, that what kind of permissions you can have on the network. You can have read, write, you can have read, write, or full control. Obviously not probably full control, but you have better permissions than an ordinary or everyone user. I'm not talking about only the file level permission, but I'm I'm talking about accessing the prohibited websites or the websites which you not usually browse, but you, because sitting at that desk, you might have better administrative power on your hand than an ordinary user. That's what I mean to say. So it could be related due to several issues. It could be related to that. You say that um, are you how you will, well, let's say you reach at the desk to troubleshoot that problem. So you try to browse that website and you are not able to browse to that website using the website name, right? Next thing what you will do immediately, might have taken your laptop or you might have taken your phone with yourself. You might want to disconnect yourself from the network, because usually when we go in our office, we connect our personal phones as well. You will connect your personal phone as well with the Wi-Fi of your company's network. So maybe disconnect your Wi-Fi temporarily and try to browse that website using the mobile data or your carrier's data. If you are able to browse, well, then you can confirm that you are still able to browse it through your phone. You checked it at your laptop or desktop before you left to troubleshoot it. Now you are standing next to that person who's complaining, and that person is still not able to browse that website. So it could be due to the misconfigured DNS. I'm not going to explain what is misconfigured DNS in detail, but what DNS does, it converts the name of the website to the IP address, okay, or IP address back to the name. So what does that mean? So if I say in that sense, I will say that usually you type the websites with the address www.google.com or www.yahoo.com. Computer does not know what is yahoo.com is. Computer actually converts that into an IP address. So it resolves what you have given it in English, like yahoo.com, because it's easier for all of us to remember, but that's what you do. You always type the name of the website. And what computer does, it converts that that name into an IP address, and then obviously from the IP address it is further broken down into binary ones and zeros, which computer is able to understand. So your next task will be to check. So that person is not able to connect with the website name, but they are able, or are they able to ping that web IP address? So how you will get the IP address? How you will be able to do the IP address of that website? So let's look at that in a moment. Let's say if somebody says I'm not able to connect to the Google, which I am able to connect right now, I can just say ping -t www.google.ca. This is a website. I want to see if that website is reachable, or what's the IP address of that website. So there are a couple of ways to know the IP address of google.ca. As soon as I do that, when I will press enter key, you will see this google.ca will actually be resolved into an IP address. So when I'll press enter, this is actually at my home. When I type google.ca, I get reply from which website. Google.ca is actually getting translated into 142.251.33.99. This is the IP address of Google. So what I will do, I will see, okay, I'm not able to browse through the website even though my internet is working. I'm just pretending if that my internet is not working. So let's go back here. I'll bring my website. I'm just going to cancel extra. So instead of typing google.com or google.ca, I will just type this IP address. Theoretically, I should be able to change this IP address. I'm going through one less step, because when I type www.google.ca, it is actually converted into this IP address. So I usually give people what? The URL or the links to connect to any website. For Google, in case of Google, I say just Google that, or just go to google.ca and just find that out. That is one extra step. For computer, it actually converts that into an IP address. So theoretically, I should be able to type Google's IP address and should be able to reach google.com. So if I type this and press enter, yeah, you see that it actually converted that, knowing that this IP address belongs to Google, it's actually converted immediately to that website. So if I would be troubleshooting for someone, I will not only browse it with website, but I will try to ping the IP address of that website. And the way I can get this IP address is that by typing the IP address of that system. And how I got the IP address? Actually, on my phone, I can type it out, or on my troubleshooting laptop, I can type it out, www.google.ca, and then it will give me the IP address of Google, and I will try to reach with the same on the computer on which they are not able to access it through the website name. If I am able to ping that server, or if I am able to reach that website through the IP address, not by actual name of that. If I am I'm not able to get the response from the server, meaning if I am able to get the response, that's why there is a green arrow. I'm able to reach it with the IP address. If I'm able to reach it with the IP address, it means that there is something wrong on this system, or it has a misconfigured DNS, meaning that this system is not able to convert google.com or google.ca into its IP address, and that is called misconfigured DNS. But if I'm able to reach, if I'm not able to reach at all, then either this computer has internet issues on its own. That could be one surety, that I am able to reach it through my troubleshooting laptop, which I brought and sitting next to me, and I'm able to browse that website, I'm able to ping to that website and everything. But this particular computer has an issue which is not able to connect to that, either that website, or it's not able to ping that website, or it's not able to even get a response. So I cannot make a full judgment that the server is down until if I'm not able to reach that website on my system or on the other system. The other thing that I will immediately do, that if I'm not able to reach that website on this current system and on my system, I will be checking or troubleshooting that if I'm able to reach some other website as well. Obviously on the Google, the next thing I will be going on some other website which I usually browse every day or something like that. I will try to reach that on my system and on this system as well. If I'm able to reach, then I can say for sure that their website is currently down. It's not us. And that is why I say try a few other websites and see if the response, and tell the user to wait until their web server comes back up, because you are not even able to browse it from your troubleshooting laptop and from the system which is having issue. The other thing that can happen, which is kind of didn't want to mention, usually every day systems get cleaned, desks get cleaned. Some systems are lying on the floor, some systems are uh, mm, harder to reach. Sometimes cleaning people will come and they will kick the cable out, which can potentially happen. Just letting you know, it happens. So that particular computer will have uh, issue at all. And while we scratching your head, what is happening? So if there is an Ethernet connection going into that desktop, you might want to check that out as well, because you tested everything there. You are able to connect to other websites. You are able to connect to the website with the website name and with the IP address. You did everything in your capacity for that connection. But hold on, let me check if you have a loose internet connection from the Ethernet cable. So you should have a, when you have an Ethernet cable inside the system, you make sure it clicks into, so you should not have any loose Ethernet cables as well. So this is how the troubleshooting cycle is working. Let's move on to a little bit further. So router has two sides to it. One is the side that is as well as so other kind of issues that you can see in the office is that if your ISP is having an issue, if they are providing the internet service to you, if you are having issues with them, so first thing first is you check, are you able to connect to your router? So how you will check the heartbeat of the router? You will check the heartbeat of your router by pinging your by pinging in your server. Can you just give me a moment? Okay, sorry about that. So I'm back. So you have default gateways. Are you able to reach your router internally? You definitely will have to have your internal network router address. Are you able to reach that? And I can guarantee that I can show you my default gateway using the IP config. So we will see that in a moment when I will show you a little bit of practical work on that. Next week, I probably will not be able to show you too much practical work because it's mostly IoT and I don't have too many IoTs here, but I will definitely show you. So IP config, and look at this. This is my IP address on my Wi-Fi. This is my IP address, IP version 4. And this is my default gateway. This is my router. This is where all my requests go through from. So if I'm able to reach to my default gateway, good enough. The scope of the problem has to be solved now. Are you able to reach? So there is one that is internal. You are able to ping that. Then you will see, are you able to reach the external of your router, which means the public facing IP, right? So this is the internal IP that is inside the boundaries of your office. And then there's an internet connection coming from ISP. Are you able to reach that IP address as well, which is public facing IP address? Because as I said, router has two things to look at: the internal traffic. If it's an internal traffic, it will be routed internally. If it is an external traffic, it will route it externally out on the network and to wherever it needs to send the data to. So if you are not able to reach, you stop here, that you probably have an issue probably with your outgoing connections of your router. So it could be potentially due to that ISP router is having issues that you are sending the router, but if your ISP is totally down, you will not be able to get the network router external IP address to be pinged. The next thing you are going to be doing, let's say if you are able to reach up until this point, you will see is your router is actually be able to reach to the ISP. If you are able to reach to the ISP router, it means from here to here, you are all good. How you can reach the ISP? Using the ISP, the IP address provided to you by your ISP. They will have a dedicated ISP that you purchase every month by paying the bill. If your route, and you can also call your ISP that if they can see that ISP is providing the traffic back to your router, and if they say yes, we are seeing the communication happening from our end to your network router. If they are able to see, it means that you are good up until from here to here. So it could be potentially that your ISP's router is not able to reach the internet. So at that point, it's out of your hand. Actually, your internet is down from the ISP side, not from your side, because you are able to reach to the ISP router. But if the ISP is not able to connect to the internet, you are basically at the hands of ISP. So you will have to just wait until when the ISP internet issues get resolved. You might have a breakage of wire or something happens to their side, so you might have to wait for that. But this is how a typical life cycle of your troubleshooting in the network infrastructure works, that you get sometimes these kind of calls, hey, my internet is not working, not sure why. So this is where you start troubleshooting. You will have to look that website. If multiple websites are down, so it could be you will check whether, because these are electronic items and they are prone to have life cycles of their own. I know Cisco provides lifetime warranty on their devices, so they are expensive, Cisco switches and routers, and they provide lifetime warranty on it, and they replace it for free, but they come at a cost. So a typical Cisco switch will be around $2,000 on its own, if it has 50 or 52 port switch or something like that. These are the typical switches of Cisco. But having said that, the troubleshooting steps start with you knowing what is your internal IP addresses are, what is your external outgoing IP address is, where the scope of trouble is starting, where the ISP, sometimes you may have to make a call to ISP and they will confirm it to you. And lastly, if the ISP is having issues, they will actually send out the issue to you, knowing that, yeah, we are currently having an issue. We will get back to you, or we will put a notification or put a voice note on their website or something that we are having issues. We are getting to the bottom of it, and we'll let you know when the internet is back up and running. But yeah, so isolating the issue on its own for an organization, sometimes it becomes troublesome for you, knowing that what is actually happening. So it's as simple as somebody kicking the wire out while they're moving from one desk to another desk and they haven't plugged in the things properly, to the scope of if the ISP is down, right? So it gets a little tricky when you are troubleshooting. You are at the hands of sometimes you are at the hands of ISP, or sometimes you are at the hand of misconnected connections, or the device is about to fail or something. So usually you ping out to your router like this. I will be showing you practical. You can also, I think this is a very common Google DNS as well. So if you type 8.8.8.8, I think I will type that out for us. Let's try it out. Google's IP address is, Google has several IP addresses. I don't know what they are doing there. 8.8.8.8. This will actually take me to Google if they have not changed it. I probably will not be able to reach them with this IP address anymore. This is a little older. This could be a little older slide, but we just saw that I can, when I was pinging Google, it was giving me this IP address. So uh, I can either ping this IP address as well. Let's do that. I think this is gone show. This is an old slide, so we'll not worry about that. But let's try this one out. It is replying me back, but it did not. But as soon as when I typed google.ca, you saw that it actually got resolved into this IP address. So I can either ping it by its IP address or I can ping it by its name. So I don't, first time when I will type, I will probably don't know or remember this number because it's just a number. So I will go by this. Maybe next time if I have it, I can just copy and paste this to see if I'm able to reach that. Yeah, ping minus A. So this IP address is kind of obsolete for Google. So let's see what does ping minus A does, and we'll see that out. So this looks like a server on which Google is currently hosted. So I'm able to see that the name of this just, if you want to know what are these switches are doing here, you can always type ping question mark. Ping minus, okay, maybe I'll just say ping minus help or something. Resolve the IP address into a host name, and that's what we did. So if you type ping minus help, you will actually get a small manual of what other things that you can do with the ping command. Usually I use ping minus t, which means until I stop it, it will continue to ping. Otherwise, if I don't use ping minus t, I'll just use a ping. It will do it 4 times and then I stop. So look at this. After 4 times, it stops. But if I want it to continually run, I'll type ping minus t and it will continue to run even after 4 cycles until you make it stop. And this is how quickly I'm getting back response from Google website on my system. Obviously, it has a latency because it's not on my network. The devices that are near to me are near to my network have less latency, or the server where I'm getting connected. Obviously, hopefully, I'm getting connected to the nearest central server or something to get my response. These usually are get cached on the ISP's server as well. We think that we are going on the Google all the time. We are actually going on the cached proxy page on the ISP. When we open it, it opens up the link to that page as well. So this is ping.dns.google. So let's see if I can resolve this dns.google. It will always give me an IP address as well. But you might be thinking, what is this kind of IP address? This is IP version 6. This is not IP version 4. So if I need to get IP version 4, I can type -4 to get IP version 4, which gives me a better IP address instead of this garbled IP address. But I can also check that out. What does this -4 does? So ping minus help. If I say okay, and does it says anything about number of RICO request? I want to see, yeah, -4 will give me the IP version 4. I don't want to see my minus IP version 6. IP version 6 and IP version 4 are the topic of networks, but I'm not going into that. Usually we understand what is an IP address. We have seen our home internal IP addresses like 192.168. 1.1 or 1.255, which I am discussing since yesterday. So if I don't want to see that, I can type it ping -4 DNS dot Google. Oh, okay. It is giving me the IP version 4 of DNS.Google where it is actually hosted. So their server hasn't changed, but when I was trying to browse it, I was not able to browse it. I should be able to browse this website, but due to their internal security, they might have blocked it. We can also look at this one. This last command of our networking is called trace route. It is called trace route in Mac operating system, but in Windows it is called as trace RT. So what does trace RT does? It gives me all the routers that it has hit to reach my destination Google in between. So let's look at this one. If I'll say type this command, it will show me that it get out of my computer on my system, then it went out to this ISP system, then it went to some other system, and it actually ended up somewhere in Los Angeles. See that? And then it request timed out. I can tell you why it is request timed out here. But for the most part, you see all the routers that it has hit before it took me to the Google. So let's run it today because I have run it like a few years ago on this slide. I'm going to run it now one more time. So I'll say trace RT. I can type DNS I can type 8.8.8, but I can type, let's say, start with Google. So out of my router, this is my router. I can tell you that. Then it is hitting this is hitting my ISP's router. Then my ISP's router took it to another router on the way. So it might take same route. It takes a little bit of time because it's actually getting the replies back that my packet has reached there, and it is replying back from that packet as well. So hopefully it is done. So see that C that I showed you is my last resort. So this IP address is of this server from Google, from which they are hosting google.ca. And from my router, it hit the ISP. ISP has taken the hit from there to this one. This is converting my request into some kind of a encrypted format called cipher keys. And then it hit this router, hit this router, hit this router. So it took me 11 hops or 9 hops to reach to actual Google website. A few years ago, it took me 12 hops. So they have probably improved some of the trafficking, which I am hoping. So I have better connectivity now, but I pasted these slides. So you know now what is the importance of IP addresses. You know now the importance of converting IP address into the proper human readable DNS name resolution addresses, and vice versa, and how you will do the troubleshooting, how you will be able to reach a particular website, how do you ping that website, how many hops that you required to reach that particular website. Basically typical of network troubleshooting. Network administrator does that, but if they are not available, as a support engineer, you can also do some kind of troubleshooting and know what's happening inside. So I will share these troubleshooting slide with you. Some of the commands are a little outdated because I took the screenshots a little while ago, But up until this point, I was explaining you how to troubleshoot where could be potentially the problem lies in. So I will definitely share these slides with you, but you might have to switch a little bit of your commands. Instead of DNS Google, just say google.ca to CIP version 4 address. Traceroute will show you how many hops it has taken to reach your desired address, and you can ping Google. You can get the name of the server of the Google. Used to be dns.google, but now they are calling it some kind of a C or something. So it might be a different day or a time that I'm hitting a different server.